They told him it had all been handled, that the files were gone, the names erased, the mistakes paved over by time and legacy. But on one sleepless night in October, standing under the dim glow of a parking garage lamp, with an old tape peeking out of a half-zipped briefcase, Bill Clinton realized something far more dangerous than truth had survived. It wasn't just a secret. It was a system. And now it had woken up. The man watching him from the shadows didn't blink. The rain fell. The SUV didn't move. Somewhere far away, a young senator had just crossed a line drawn before he was born. And Clinton turned slightly, just enough to look the past in the eye. The question wasn't whether the truth would come out. The question was, who would still be standing when it did? The phone didn't ring like it used to. Not with urgency. Not for him. These days, Bill Clinton spent his nights surrounded by unread books and the ghosts of former headlines, waiting for nothing in particular. That's why the call that came at 11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday was strange enough for him to answer. President Clinton? The voice on the line was hushed, like someone hiding under a blanket of noise. This is Padilla, it continued. I was told you might understand what's happening to me. There was a silence that felt heavier than it should have. Clinton didn't ask how he got the number. I saw the footage, he said. They yanked you out of the press conference like a protester. Homeland Security doesn't do that unless they're told to. I asked about transfers, migrant movements. Numbers didn't add up. Someone got nervous, Padilla said, his voice cracking. I think I found something old. Clinton closed his eyes. I'll see you. Midnight. East River Docks. Bring nothing digital. Then he hung up. The warehouse was older than the lie it had once helped store. Clinton stood near a rusted container, wind slicing through the gaps in the wall, a cigarette burning down between his fingers. When Padilla arrived, he looked like someone who had run out of belief before he ran out of time. You sure you want to know? Clinton asked. I already do, Padilla replied. I just don't know what it means. Clinton handed him a folder. Faded pages, static-heavy photographs, timestamps from the late 90s, black vans, airstrips with no flags, faces that never made the news. It was called Project Overlook, Clinton said. They said it was about security. But it wasn't. It was about silence. Silence with a structure. Padilla's hands trembled as he turned the pages. One photo showed a man in shackles boarding an unmarked plane. Another showed a memo with Clinton's own signature, though blurred and incomplete. This was your administration, Padilla said, barely above a whisper. Clinton didn't flinch. It was all of them, he said. Before me. After me. I tried to stop it. I failed. And now, you stumbled into the cleanup crew. They don't just erase people. They erase questions. Padilla looked up, fear creeping into his expression. Why now? Because the system got lazy, Clinton replied. And you too honest, too loud. Neither man saw the lens watching them from across the harbor. A slow zoom captured every word, every motion. On a screen in a room neither of them knew existed, a man in a gray suit typed a single sentence into a secure server. Contact established. Contingency protocol pending. As Padilla left, Clinton remained still, eyes on the horizon. He didn't notice the black SUV slide out of the shadows, engine silent. He only lit another cigarette and muttered to the wind. Some things don't stay buried. Not forever. The rain began again, and the clock, somewhere, started ticking. The envelope hadn't left Padilla's hands in 12 hours. He hadn't eaten, barely spoken. The silence from Clinton after their meeting was more unnerving than anything he'd read in the files. That silence screamed one thing. You're on your own now. The flight to Arkansas was unannounced. He didn't tell staff, didn't file a schedule. His assistant thought he'd gone to a retreat in Vermont. Let them believe that. Truth was colder than any mountaintop. The Clinton Presidential Library didn't question his access. The name still opened doors. But Padilla wasn't looking for exhibits. He found his way to the lower levels, where the public couldn't go, where memory turned to record, where record turned to dust. He handed a request slip to a tired archivist with a name badge that read Lee. I need to review restricted campaign correspondence from early 1998. Internal only. Lee looked at the slip, then at Padilla, then down again. You're not supposed to ask for that. I wasn't supposed to be handcuffed in front of 15 cameras last week either, Padilla said quietly. 15 minutes later, a single box slid across the desk. No label, just a red line, drawn by marker across the lid. Inside were handwritten notes, old appointment books, and a series of memos marked Confidential, Directive 7B. One page made him stop breathing. All transport initiatives under Overlook to be masked as refugee relocation. No media trails. No agency overlap. POTUS eyes only. Padilla stared at the signature at the bottom. It was faint, but not unfamiliar. Not Clinton's. Cheney's. The next folder held stills from a now-defunct airbase in Honduras. The same vans from the first file Clinton gave him. Except this time, they weren't blurry. And one of the detainees. Padilla recognized his face from a recent Senate intelligence briefing. He wasn't a ghost from the past. He was a contractor, active. The door behind him creaked. Padilla turned sharply, but it was only Lee, the archivist. You find what you were looking for. Padilla closed the folder and stood. No, he said, voice hollow. I found something that was looking for me. He left the library under heavy clouds, feeling like they followed him. In the distance, a man sat on a park bench, reading a newspaper too still. The SUV across the street was the same model that waited at the docks the night before. They weren't hiding. That was the message. You're seen. Back in New York, Clinton poured himself a glass of scotch he'd sworn he'd never touch again. On the table, the phone buzzed once, no ID. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. He knew the line was open either way. There was no record of where the meeting took place. No cameras, no GPS. Just coordinates sent through an old channel Clinton hadn't used since 2003. A park in D.C., well lit but always empty past midnight. The kind of place where silence had rules and power wore jogging shoes. Padilla arrived first, trench coat pulled tight, eyes scanning. He carried nothing, just the weight of what he'd seen. Clinton emerged from the shadows like he'd never left them. You weren't followed, he asked. If I was, Padilla said. They want me to know. Clinton nodded. That's their way of saying, stop digging. I can't, Padilla said. What I found, it's still active. The contractors, the planes, the money trails. The past isn't past. It's just dressed better. He handed Clinton a folded photo from the archive, a still of the detainee he'd recognized. Clinton's face tightened. He took a slow breath. That man worked under a provisional arm of DHS before September 11th even happened. He was never supposed to see sunlight again. And yet, Padilla said, he briefed a Senate subcommittee last fall. Clinton looked around. The park was still. Too still. You're not supposed to be here, Clinton said quietly. I know, Padilla replied. No, Clinton corrected, eyes narrowing. I mean you, Alex. You're not part of this world. You actually believe in rules. Padilla's fists clenched. Then why am I the one who found it? Clinton stepped closer. For the first time, the wear of age faded from his voice. Because the system didn't see you coming. Somewhere nearby, in a van with tinted glass, two men in suits listened through parabolic mics. One of them tapped a screen. Active code, Gemini. Clinton pulled out a small recorder, laid it between them on a bench, clicked it on. I'm going to tell you something I was never supposed to remember, he said. But if I don't, you won't survive what's coming. Padilla leaned in. Project Overlook wasn't just relocation, Clinton said. It was exchange. Trade. Favors with nations we claim to condemn. Human leverage, swapped like stocks. Padilla's eyes darkened. We traffic people. We traded ghosts for silence. Prisoners for policy. Intelligence for power. I signed off on some of it. Not all. But enough to be owned. By who? Padilla whispered. Clinton looked away. You're asking the wrong question. That night, Padilla returned to his hotel, but never made it to the room. As he stepped into the elevator, a hand clamped his arm. Two men. No badges. No names. Senator. One of them said, there's a car waiting. You want to hear what the director has to offer. Meanwhile, Clinton sat alone in a diner across town. Coffee going cold, eyes on the TV muted in the corner. Breaking news. Anonymous source alleges illegal detention protocols active within current Homeland Security infrastructure. He smiled. Just barely. Then he whispered to no one. Now let's see what they do when the truth leaks first. It started with a headline. Sources confirm, extradition for favors program may still be active in U.S. intelligence circles. The article hit the wires at 7:43 a.m. By 8:05, 3 different government agencies had issued statements denying everything. By 8:30, #Overlook protocol was trending worldwide. By 9 o'clock, Senator Padilla was missing. No one in his office had seen him since the previous night. His phone was dead. GPS disabled. Staffers assumed he'd gone underground, but only Clinton knew the truth. Padilla had been taken. The director had sent men who didn't wear insignias and didn't speak in courtrooms. The kind of men who read secrets in biometric files and stored human leverage like inventory. The deal they offered Padilla was simple. Walk away, or be walked over. You leak one more page, the man in the gray suit told him in a warehouse somewhere outside Arlington, and we unseal you're sealed. We're very good at rewriting pasts. Padilla, bruised and exhausted, spat on the floor. Then you'll have to kill me. The man smiled. Not yet. You're more valuable broken. Meanwhile, Clinton stood in a private hotel suite watching news anchors eat each other alive over speculation. His burner phone had been silent since midnight, but he knew what came next. He sat at a desk, laid out the 3 remaining pages from the Overlook file that no one else had seen. These weren't blurry photos or memos. These were names. 4 senators, 2 living, 2 dead, 1 former vice president, a secretary of state. Every one of them had signed off on aspects of the original operation. Every one of them had benefited. And now, most of them were either in power or just a scandal away from more of it. Clinton stared at the names. Then he picked up a red pen and circled the one that scared him most. DK, the Kingmaker. He folded the papers into a blank envelope and slipped them into the hotel's outgoing mail bin. Destination: a reporter he trusted just enough. History doesn't need martyrs, he muttered. It needs accidents. At Homeland Security headquarters, chaos reigned. In the morning briefing, a visibly shaken undersecretary read a prepared statement. There's no official record of any operation under the name Project Overlook. The Department of Homeland Security condemns the spread of dangerous conspiracy narratives. Behind the scenes, internal comms were scrambled. Every division head received the same encrypted message. If Clinton speaks publicly, he is to be contained. Padilla is to be neutralized. Priority read. Across the city, Clinton met an old contact in a cathedral that hadn't hosted Mass in a decade. The man wore a priest's collar, but had never taken the vow. CIA retired. One of the architects of the original Night Coast Agreement. You broke the code, Bill, the man said, voice low. No, Clinton replied. I let it go too long. They'll drag you through the streets. Clinton nodded. Better me than no one. The man passed him a flash drive. This is the list. Every relocation, every extraction, every lie. Clinton stared at it. You sure this is complete? It is now. By sunset, media pressure became unbearable. An emergency hearing was called. Clinton was subpoenaed. For the first time in over a decade, he would speak under oath before Congress. The room was packed. Cameras broadcasted live. America watched. Padilla, still captive, was allowed to see the footage from a screen in his cell. He saw Clinton sit straight, hand raised. He saw the silence fall over the room as the chairman of the committee asked the first question. Mr. Clinton, are you aware of any program known as Project Overlook? A pause. Clinton breathed in. Then, for the first time, he answered with no politics left in him. Yes, I was aware. I authorized it. And I can tell you it never ended. The room exploded. Flashbulbs. Shouting. Gavel slams. But Clinton didn't flinch. He looked straight into the camera and added, and if you think I'm the only one who knew, you've got a much bigger problem. Padilla looked away from a screen. He smiled. Not because it was over, but because now it had finally begun. The morning after Clinton's testimony, America didn't wake up the same. Newsrooms pulsed like nerve centers. Political analysts stuttered on live broadcasts. Protesters filled the streets, some in rage, some in vindication. The word Overlook wasn't just trending anymore. It was etched. Congress went into emergency session. Every name Clinton hinted at was now under scrutiny. Files once deemed classified indefinitely were subpoenaed. But those who had built the system were already 2 steps ahead. In a high-rise overlooking the Capitol, a small group met behind frosted glass. None were elected. None had titles you'd recognize. But they ran the gears behind the machine. He made himself the lightning rod, one of them said. Another sipped black coffee and replied coldly, "Then we strike where the thunder isn't expected." Padilla was released 2 hours after Clinton's statement. No explanation, no press, no charge. He emerged from a black SUV on the edge of the National Mall, face bruised, eyes bloodshot. He didn't go home. Instead, he walked straight into the offices of The Atlantic, where an editor was already waiting with the manila envelope Clinton had sent days earlier. Inside was the complete Overlook archive. The editor looked at him. "You sure?" Padilla didn't answer. He just nodded. And with that, the final leak went live. That night, Clinton sat alone in a green room backstage at a university in upstate New York. He was scheduled for a legacy conversation, irony thick enough to choke on. He never made it to the stage. A staffer entered with a look that said everything. "Mr. President, they're moving to strip your security detail. Emergency vote. The party's disowning you." Clinton smiled faintly. "I was never theirs anyway." He stood, walked to the mirror. The years had gathered behind his eyes, but something steadier had surfaced too. Resolve. Or maybe just peace. "You should go," he said. "They won't stop with me." The aide hesitated, then left. Clinton turned back to his bag and removed the flash drive, the master record. He placed it in a manila envelope marked only with the initials, AP. Outside, Padilla was already on the steps of the Capitol. Reporters screamed his name, shoving microphones at him. He held up the printed dossier, raising it like evidence, like indictment, like a final damnation. "This system is not broken," he said to the crowd. "It was built this way. And now you know." Behind him, a ripple of unrest moved through the press corps. The broadcast cut across every network. That was when the sirens started. At Clinton's location, 3 black SUVs converged. Too fast. Too late. He was already gone. All they found was a chair, still warm, and a copy of the Federalist Papers, open to a dog-eared page. The accumulation of all powers may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. Weeks passed. Subpoenas turned into trials. Senators resigned. Careers imploded. The agency known only as Division 7B vanished from the federal directory. And Padilla? He kept walking into fire, hearing after hearing. Not a whistleblower. Not a hero. Just someone who refused to be turned. Then, one final letter arrived at his office. No return address. Just a typed note inside. "You've done enough. They'll come for you still. But you'll know where to look now." WJC. Enclosed, a single photograph. Clinton, standing alone at an airstrip. Pockets full. Eyes fixed on the horizon. And behind him, just faint enough to question, a jet, unmarked, waiting in the fog. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and press the like button.